Hello, and welcome back to the Shorts and Series podcast, the podcast where we endeavor to prove the online video is a force to be reckoned with. I'm Devin.
And I'm Nick.
And we're back with Fallout Nuka Break. Yes. Season 2.
I'm excited.
And
we haven't seen it.
No, we haven't.
I want to point that out.
We're watching it along with these reviews.
Yes, we haven't seen the ending, so we don't know what's going to come up.
I believe the terminology is a blind review. At least I think that's what it's called, because there's Let's Plays I watch, and a lot of people on YouTube that do Let's Plays make the distinction between just Let's Plays and a blind Let's Play. So if it's somebody doing a Let's Play through a game that they've never played before, they'll call it a blind Let's Play. So I think we should call this a blind review.
All right.
Of Fallout Nuka Break Season 2. Season 1 was awesome.
It was very awesome.
Left us on quite a cliffhanger, an entire town being nuked.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a cliffhanger for anyone in the town.
No, their stories ended very promptly.
Yep.
One would assume.
And radioactively.
Yes. But we're here with Season 2, and let me just say, right off the bat, before we even get into the podcast, I'm liking it a lot more than, not that I didn't like Season 1, but I'm liking it way more than Season 1.
They definitely ramped up the whole production value.
Yes,
so
it's quite good.
Yeah. And the props remain as good or better than they were in the first one, and they were definitely the best part of the first one, and then they've expanded everything else around it as well, like the cinematography and sounds and whatnot.
Yes, absolutely. So. Very well done. For those of you who've not watched Season 1, what are you doing? Pause this podcast, go watch it, watch all of it, then watch Episode 1 of Season 2, and then come back. But if you just need a refresher, Nick here, he's our in-studio synopsis master. In case you didn't know, he's officially designated with all Practice Slacker Media synopsis writing. Very arduous job here at Practice Slacker Media.
Sentences.
They're hard. And Nick has written his own synopsis to read for you. For your listening pressure. For your listening pressure. For your listening pleasure. Here's Nick Smith with a Fallout synopsis.
Return to the wasteland as Ben, Scarlet, and Twig continue their post-apocalyptic search for trouble.
Not only is it a search for trouble, it's a post-apocalyptic. You kind of butchered that word.
Yeah, I was still kind of laughing about your mispronunciation.
So the verdict is neither of us can speak tonight.
All right.
This will be a wonderful podcast filled with slip-ups and
mistakes.
Yes.
Regrets, probably.
Regrets. We'll be tripping over our own words. It'll be fun. Join us.
Probably tripping over each other's as well.
Yes, that happens a lot, actually.
Throwing up traps, yeah.
All right, well, that being said, now that we've done the synopsis, it's time for the credits, because as always, we want to give credit where credit is due.
And this is a first episode of a series, so.
Yes, and Fallout Nuka Break was directed by Vincent Talenti. It was written by Dan Ast, Brian Clevenger, and Zach Finfrock. It stars Zach Finfrock as Twig, Tybee Diskin as Scarlet, Aaron D. Gills as Ben, Stephen Dengler as Raz, Cameron Diskin as Ranger, David Castro as Leon, Circus Slaweski. I'm assuming that's probably mispronounced.
Yeah, absolutely.
Circus Selwski. Sezelski. Circus Sezgalwagzgwa.
Nailed it.
Yep, that's probably correct.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, that's probably pretty close to the actual pronunciation right there. Sklezgwazgwa.
Yep.
As Ron, Anna Rose Heyman as Penelope, Ryan Hellquist as Scout.
That's a cool name.
Hellquist?
Hellquist, yeah.
That is a cool name. Also, I think I pronounced that one better.
I think so.
It stars Chris Avalone as Chris, Bonnie Bauer as Bonnie, Howard McNair as Daniels, Michelle Specht as Red, Kevin Anthony Brooks as Larry, Timothy Kane as Tim, Doug Jones as Mayor Connors, John Solito as Six Eyes, Shane Brady, Guard 1, Eric Denton, Scorpion, Justin Morgan,
Scorpion?
Scorpion.
You said Scorpion.
Scorpion. Nick?
Yeah.
Nick.
Okay.
You are not helping. Stars Justin Morgan as Guard 2, Robert Hardin as Raider John, Chad Vilea as Raider Jimmy, Nicholas Acosta as Guard, Jason Grazel as Chet, Anthony Clementi as Clementi, Matt Kessler as Locker Guy, and Allie Williams as Locker Girl. Music was done by Dan Martinez, cinematography by Matt Ryan and Aaron Moorhead, casting by Tybee Diskin, production design by Leah Stainer, Costume design by Katie Broad and Mark Zorin. And production management by Evan, another hard to pronounce word coming up here. Nick, why don't you try your hand at this? Since you're always making fun of how I mispronounce people's names, take a look at that last name.
Evan Zissimopoulos.
Zissimopoulos?
Yeah.
Zissimopoulos. Zissimopoulos.
Yeah, no, it's easy. Zissimopoulos.
Well, maybe we'll give you the credit section from here on out.
No,
you could read off.
I don't. That responsibility is too much.
You could read off the credits every week. In fact, I'll just give you all the responsibility. I'll just be here to.
Wait. Will you make fun of me though?
No.
Well,
I'll give you all the responsibility. You can cover every single segment by yourself.
I have the responsibility to read the names and make fun of myself because that's my job now is to make fun of you reading the names.
Yes, you have to make fun of yourself.
All right.
And then my sole responsibility would be sit here and occasionally nod and say yeah.
Okay.
And look good for the camera.
Well, you've got one of those down.
I'll just give the camera like the flirty eyes, like I'm doing right now.
Is that your flirty eyes?
That might explain.
Is it flirty or murder?
I was aiming for flirt. Okay. Maybe this explains a lot about my
like murder eyes is what they look like.
Yeah, this explains a lot about my romantic life, Nick. But that being said,
you Ed Gein.
Moving on.
Okay,
that's the credits as always. Well done.
Absolutely.
Fantastic job, everybody that worked on that. There's a lot more in the credits as well. There's a section for producers, and there's probably like 20 people on that list. So definitely, if you're interested in everybody that was part of this project, go check out the IMDb page.
Yes. Good for information, IMDb.
Yes.
Ratings, not so much, but information, solid.
Yes. But that being said, let's move on to our thoughts on the plot.
Okay.
You have the first note.
I do. It's boom.
Boom.
Because the bomb exploded.
That it did.
So the town is gone. Just
one would assume
gone.
It got nuked.
There's no survivors.
No.
So
there we go.
Yeah, I mean, we started off the season with a nuclear explosion. What is the epic finale gonna be?
Right.
If that's how we start.
Right.
It's gotta get good, right?
It's gotta escalate from there.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So
I didn't think about that.
Potential.
We have to have an even bigger explosion.
Okay.
Are you saying
or something like more dramatic than an explosion?
Okay. Well, there's not very many things more dramatic than an explosion.
True, but maybe it's like a crazy twist.
Time travel back to the pre-war world.
Then there's lots of explosions.
And then they find out that they are the cause of the war.
Boom.
Wow.
Mini booms.
No, I don't. I think that's a terrible idea.
It is actually.
But off the top of my head,
if
you asked me what would be a more escalated season finale for season 2. That's the first thing that came out of my head.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Also, they were not cool guys
because they looked at the explosion.
Because cool guys don't look at explosions.
Exactly. So I felt like that was a pretty good way to sum up the group. Is, they're not cool because they looked at the explosion. Because that's kind of funny, and they're kind of funny, and they're not cool.
You're trying a little too hard.
The tiny story, though. You're trying too hard. You're trying to tie in a meme that doesn't exactly work.
All right.
Because you're taking the death of a town full of people very nonchalantly.
Well, cool guys don't look at explosions.
That's true.
And also, if they weren't looking at the explosion, it wouldn't have held the dramatic weight that it did. So your whole point is invalidated, and we're going to move on to my point, which is valid. That being, it's actually not my point.
It's my point.
Still your point.
Yeah.
Apparently, you did the whole plot section.
I put most of the points in plot. You got characters, though.
Okay, well, let's just say I'm invalidating all your points in plot.
Wow.
Yep. There you go. But
continue
anyways. So none of it matters, but let's still hear it.
So they kind of don't know where to go at first when everything that they had kind of been dealing with exploded.
Yes.
So their somewhat loose goal was the ranger said, we need to survive. I've got a supply cache up north. Let's go through the mountains. And so that's kind of the, okay, now we have to get moving and kickstart the plot.
Right.
So
because presumably all their supplies were still in Eastwood.
Yeah, and probably not very good.
No.
So starting from scratch, they're basically back at square one.
Yeah,
kind of.
Except they've got a shish kebab.
And they've got a ranger friend.
Which is probably the biggest surviving factor.
Probably.
Deciding factor.
Yes. And as they're headed up towards the supply cache, we get a little altercation with Ben.
Yes, he is kind of standing, muttering to himself.
Yeah.
Almost as if I felt like he was talking about his past. Or like maybe he thought he was in his past and was reliving a conversation or something.
It almost sounded to me like, before I knew what was going on, like if he had a communications device and he's trying to talk with someone without being overheard.
Oh, okay.
Is what first crossed my mind before I figured out what was going on.
Yeah. So they approach him and he kind of flips out. He goes kind of crazy. And he's going feral.
Yes. I think we both figured out what was happening at the same time, which is when he turns around and then does like the hiss.
Yeah.
As soon as he made the hiss noise, both of us like, oh.
Well, I mean, if you've played a Fallout game, that noise is somewhat familiar.
Yes. It almost sounded like they might have taken it from the game. The audio file?
Maybe. I doubt it. I feel like they probably messed with the audio that he actually made to make it sound more like the game. But
Gotcha. But definitely in that moment, oh, crap.
Yes.
Ben's going feral.
Which is not good.
No.
Because having a ghoul on your side is one thing, but if he goes feral at any moment, that's a huge liability.
Yeah. So that's definitely probably my favorite plot development.
Yes.
Now.
I was definitely not expecting that at all.
No. I mean, there's many things that we were predicting about Ben's story arc last season.
Yeah.
None of them were him going feral.
No.
All of them were about like a potential wife he had in the past, and
Right.
why does this ranger want him, and what's the significance of this ring, all that stuff.
And him going feral didn't even cross my mind as a possibility. So the fact that that's happening is pretty crazy.
Yes.
And then he kind of runs off on his own. Like, I think that he has the mindset, he's putting on a cool guy demeanor, but really he says, I don't want to hurt these people. If I'm going feral and I can't stop it, I'm going to leave.
Right.
Almost as if like he's protecting them by leaving.
Yes.
From himself. So that's kind of the feeling I got, in that he was putting on his usual aloof front.
Right. And then the ranger goes after him.
Yes.
Leaving Twig and Scarlet by themselves.
Right.
And they're kind of
conveniently, he gives them his sniper rifle, like his long range weapon, and says stay here. But then they get shot.
Yes.
And captured.
Yes.
And so now he doesn't have a long range weapon.
I didn't even think about that.
It's bad.
The ranger's now without a weapon.
Yeah, well, he has his revolver.
Well, true.
And for a ranger, that's all you need.
Yeah, I guess. But so Twig is flipping through the radio.
Yeah, I did like that. That he actually uses his Pip-Boy, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, so he's like, oh, I actually have a radio signal here. Maybe things are going great after all. Boom, gets shot right after he says that. And that was great. We both laughed out loud.
Good.
Literally, we didn't just LOL.
It's true. Good timing.
LOL'd. Literally laughed out loud.
Don't start a new thing.
It's a new thing.
Lol.
Okay.
So
all right, continue.
So Twig is kind of left for dead with a bullet wound, and Scarlet has been captured by the slavers.
Yes.
Recaptured, I guess I should say.
Yes.
Which is not good. She has a slave collar on, which in the Fallout universe, most slave collars explode if you don't meet certain requirements. Usually it's like a proximity-based thing. So like if the slave leaves the area, their head blows up.
Or if you tamper with it and try to take it off.
Yeah, or if you try to tamper with it and your explosive skill isn't high enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I believe it's an expert level thing at 75.
I think so.
Yeah.
And also, we're reunited with Larry.
Yes.
Who is also kind of, I guess you could say, been captured by the slavers. I mean, he's kind of...
It doesn't appear so at first.
No. At first you think, oh, he's working with them.
Yeah.
He's kind of like buddies with them until he himself gets a slave collar slapped on him.
Yes, that's proximity linked to...
Scarlet.
Yes. So it's almost like that short film by Ryan Connolly.
Oh, proximity.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even think about that.
So he can't get outside of 20 feet of her.
Right.
Which is, not a good thing. And I do like that he neglects to tell her that. Like when she wakes up and is like, oh, I have a slave collar on, this sucks.
Right.
And then he has one. He doesn't tell her that it's proximity based, presumably because she would immediately run in the other direction and blow his head up.
Well, see, and that's what I was wondering is we have one of the slavers tell Larry, okay, 20 feet. You have
Right.
20 feet between you and Scarlet.
Right.
You breach that, you're dead. What I'm wondering is it programmed
one
just
way?
Yeah, is it one way? Is it just Larry that's in danger?
Right.
Or are both of them in danger if they split up too far?
I think it would be more clever if both of them were in danger.
Same.
Especially if Scarlet doesn't realize it.
Yes, from a plot standpoint, I'm hoping so because that makes for more drama
Yes.
and dramatic irony.
And tension.
Exactly,
Yeah.
in the plot. So if we have Larry chasing after Scarlet and she's trying to get away from him at some point,
Right.
but he's like trying to explain, no, like we need to stay together. It almost forces the two enemies to kind of rally together to face a bigger enemy because, well, if we don't stick together, we're both dead. Which I
Absolutely.
think I could see some great plot points spewing out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I thought it was kind of interesting if Larry was worried about her running off to make his head explode, why didn't he tell her that she had to be within 20 feet of his collar?
True.
Or her head would explode, which would make it seem like he wouldn't be in danger. So even if she wanted to kill him so bad she would die, she wouldn't do it.
It might almost just be a pride thing from Larry, like he doesn't want to admit he's in as bad of a place as he is.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Probably. I don't know.
But we will find out, I guess.
Yes.
Then, meanwhile, I almost said trio,
Just the one. The trio split up. They're all going different places.
Well,
at this point.
I was talking about the Ranger, Ben, Twig.
Okay.
So they are technically a trio.
I suppose, but they're not the trio.
Yes. Actually, no, because they all get split up. Never mind. You're right.
I
So Twig. Sorry, I wasn't sure where I was in the plot.
Okay.
Twig is shot and
Yes.
left for dead.
Yes.
Scarlet's captured by slavers, and Ben and the Ranger are run off their own direction.
Well, they do find the evidence that the other two have left, so they've come back, but then they don't know where to go from there.
Exactly. So Twig has been found by some friendlies that said they were on their way to Eastwood when they saw it blown up, I believe.
Yes. And that would suck to me if the place you're going to literally explodes just before you get there.
Yeah.
The only solace they have is that they had not already arrived.
True. Which is some pretty big solace.
I suppose so. Yeah.
And they come across Twig, but not before he is almost shot by the crazy lady from Eastwood.
Yes.
We saw her in the pub in Eastwood.
Right.
And she hated him for some reason. We never got the backstory about that. And now she's over Twig again, holding a gun, saying finally, and she's about to kill him when she herself is shot.
Yes. So, and I'm not sure if she's out and down for the count or if she's
Exactly.
gonna come back with another bullet wound and another reason to hate Twig.
Exactly. And so I'm caught in this place where I'm like, I don't know if the writers were like, well, we don't know what we're going to do with this character. Let's just kill her. Or if they're making her seem dead and they're going to bring her back later.
I don't know.
Because she's such an enigmatic character.
It's
It's
true.
We don't know
Wasn't
anything
there
a
conversation between her and Larry in the last season? I think I remember that.
Maybe. I think there was some very, very vague inference that she may have been a vault dweller at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe in the same vault as Twig.
Maybe. And I also feel like when writing Twig's character for their the skill point allocation, they just gave him 10 luck and like lower everything else. I feel like that's what his primary skill is.
Yes. You think that's actually a process they did in writing? Is they like broke down if this was an actual character,
Fallout with his special.
what would their skill sets be?
Yeah.
Huh. That'd be interesting. But yeah, and then also Twig, I believe in one of the very first episodes was mentioning his nickname's Twig because he was one of the skinniest people in his vault.
Right.
Even though he's more of a heavyset guy.
True.
Now this crazy lady is somewhat heavyset herself, so maybe they're one of those experimental vaults where they overfed the people.
Maybe.
So maybe I think they're both from the same vault.
Okay. I can see that. But that would definitely be an interesting plot for sure.
But hopefully we'll get more backstory there. And Twig is taken by these friendlies to the locker.
Yes, presumably friendlies, but also they're kind of kidnapping him.
A little bit.
Because he doesn't really have much of a choice.
But they don't seem hostile in any way.
Not terribly hostile, but it seems like they might turn.
Yeah, but they killed his assailant, and they're helping him out.
That's true, but they think he has information about what happened to Eastwatch.
Yeah, so I don't think they're evil bad guys.
Right.
If anything, I think they're more like almost trepidatious.
Yeah.
Like
well, you would have to be in the Wasteland.
exactly, like slow to earn their trust.
Right.
So I think they're going to be, in the end, good guys. Maybe like go through a rough spot in the middle where they're trying to figure out who they could trust, especially if Twig reunites with the others. And they're like, okay, well, these others. I could see a situation where Twig reunites with Scarlet and Larry with the slavers on their heels. And it's like, oh, no, we have to help them out. No, we don't know these guys. What are you talking about?
Right.
So these... Yeah. So I think there's situations in which it could go bad and trust could be revoked. But in the long run, I think the Locker fellows are friendly.
I would agree. They're probably like an ally who has a cause that might be worth fighting for.
Right. And they obviously know of Scarlet.
Yes.
And they seem to want to help her.
Yes, there is a brief mention of a prophecy.
Yeah.
Which I found interesting.
And they don't say who or what it pertains to, but I'm assuming Scarlet.
I feel like it's Scarlet.
Yeah. She seems to be like, quote, the chosen one, if you will, of this whole series.
Yes, which I do kind of like that she's the chosen one and not Twig, because I feel like it would have been the obvious choice to make Twig the chosen one.
Really? I would still say Scarlet, simply because she's been this person of interest the whole time. Like, everybody wants her.
Well, yeah, but I mean from like the very beginning design stages of coming up with the plot design for the whole series.
Gotcha.
I think it would have been much easier to say, oh, the Vault Dweller, the player, would clearly be the chosen one in any prophecy or whatever.
Gotcha.
And maybe he'll like come in and usurp the chosen one from the prophecy at the very last minute or something.
Perhaps.
Could be interesting.
But regardless, we then cut to Scarlet.
Yes.
Being taken to the slaver camp.
Right.
And we finally get to see Leon. We've seen him before, but just like his hair.
Yeah.
And casting a moody shadow onto his face.
Yeah.
But now we get to see him in broad daylight, and he looks like a pretty bad dude.
Yes, and also like he's in love with Scarlet.
Yeah, they definitely had like that awkward romantic feel to it.
The one-way romantic.
The one-way, like, obsessive, I will have you whatever cost kind of.
Which is creepy.
Yeah.
Just he's bad dude.
Yeah. He's like me if you're to leave me alone for the next 10 years.
Okay. All right.
It was a joke, Nick.
Okay.
It was not meant to be serious.
But it was taken that way.
But don't.
Okay.
Because it's not true.
Okay. Quickly, though, I want to talk about the locker. I want to know what that is. It's like a manufacturing plant, and they want to get it up and running.
And if I had a guess, that has the feeling of it being turned into a weapons manufacturing plant. That's the air I got, is they want to make weapons.
Maybe, but it seems like the goal they should have would be more noble than that, like making food or water or
right,
energy.
Like Fallout 3, like let's make all the water not irradiated anymore.
Yeah, right.
So, but just the name, the locker, sounds more militant.
It does, but it was spelled Lockre.
True.
And the rest of the building was literally missing.
Right.
So it could have been the name of someone, I'm assuming.
Oh, gotcha. That's a good point.
So I don't know. I want to know about it.
I do hope it's a more novel. More noble.
Yes, I would hope so too, because I feel like that would give a long-term project or thing to rally behind for Twig.
Yes. And also bring even more of a sense of Fallout familiarity to the viewers.
Right.
Because
we're very like an ultimate goal, essentially.
Right. Because right now we have a lot of side goals, but no one big overarching goal.
Yeah. And so basically all the plot points in this episode serve to make the first part of the season at least a quest for becoming reunited.
Yes. And that's about where we're left with a lot of questions.
And no answers, really.
Nope. Not at all.
So hopefully answers will be forthcoming.
Yes. But until then, let's move on to our thoughts on the characters.
All right.
Ben. I want to talk about Ben. I find Ben to be the most intriguing character at this point.
Yes, absolutely.
Because to me, he almost has almost a Sawyer-like personality. If you guys are familiar with Lost or have watched Lost, like that guy who's like rough and tough and I could handle on my own on the outside, but inside he's actually kind of somewhat self-doubting and a tad insecure.
Yes.
He has that vibe, especially now that he's starting to go feral.
Yes.
And it makes him really relatable.
Yeah, do you feel the same way a lot of the time?
Well, not the exact same way, but it's like you can see where he's coming from. Instead of just...
Yeah, I agree.
If he's just flat dimensionally to where he's like, yeah, I'm the tough guy and I'm awesome, right? And you don't ever show his flaws and faults and fears, then he's just a flat archetypical character that you can't really get invested in.
Yes. No, I would agree. He's definitely very awesome. I love the feeling that I get that he's wanting to protect the world from his potential to be feral.
Right.
Where he's like leaving people behind and at the same time he's not willing to like fight for himself. Like I feel like he considers himself irredeemable for some reason.
Right. And he's almost covering up, like he has this despair going on that he's trying to mask with indifference.
Exactly.
And I think, like you mentioned, like he does want to protect the people around him that are near to him. But I do think at the same time, a lot of the indifference he's putting out, he's legitimately buying into. Like I think he does, like you said, feel like he himself isn't worth anything.
Right.
And just wants to kind of like give up. He's like, he almost in a weird way, I think, partially wants to go feral.
Yes.
Just so he could stop caring. Because he's tired of caring and putting forth the effort to do anything anymore.
Almost like he cares too much, so he has to pretend like he doesn't care so that maybe he won't have to care as much, but then he just ends up caring the same amount. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay.
But I'm sure I could play it back like
Sure.
4 or 5 times when I'm editing and then I'll get it.
Okay.
But yeah, so I...
It seems helpful to the conversation at hand.
Yes.
Yeah, I think and this might be what you're trying to say. Like he cares a lot, but he doesn't want to because it takes up too much energy. And he wants to give up, but he can't bring himself to actually give up.
Right. Yes, but what I'm saying is that he cares so much, but feels like he can't do anything with the care that he has. Like he is not worth it because he's a ghoul, and like maybe he doesn't bring anything to the table, and so he doesn't want to be a liability at the same time.
Right.
And so if he pretends not to care, maybe he won't have to care, but then he finds he still does, and so going feral would solve that.
Right. And we also learned that he's around from pre-war times.
Yes. Well, we knew that already, didn't we?
We did. Yeah. But meaning he's at least 200 years old. Probably more, probably around like 220, 230-ish.
Yeah.
So he's been around a long time. And when you've lived that long in such a desolate environment,
I would imagine
in such hopelessness, if I were in his shoes, I would have reached the point where I'm like, yeah, just I'm done.
I don't want to care anymore. Exactly.
Exactly. And so it's really from that standpoint, when you put yourself in his shoes, really like understandable. Like, yep, I'd want to give up too.
Yes, but I don't want him to give up before I know what happened.
True.
Like I feel like he's still very enigmatic, and there's a lot of very specific questions we can ask about his past that he will absolutely not give any answers to.
Right.
And hopefully, going feral, he might still, at his core, not want to do it, despite the fact that he thinks it'll like help him not care. He still doesn't want to be a feral ghoul.
Right.
So hopefully that will be a catalyst for him opening up and giving us those answers.
Yes, which we kind of have that catalyst in the form of the Ranger.
Yes.
Who's always asking him, Benjamin Eldrick.
Right.
Do you care?
What do
you care about?
Yeah.
All that stuff. Which is cool because we get the Rangers, even though I think Scarlet and Twig view Ben as like a friend and a person, the Rangers almost directly addressing him like, you are a human.
Yes.
Focus on that. You are a person with a name and a history.
Exactly. He's definitely putting that at the forefront of their every interaction.
Which is interesting and makes me want to know more about this Ranger.
Like, who is this dude? We don't even know his name. All we know is he wants Ben. We don't know why.
Yes, but we also know that he is a ranger, so presumably he cares about people enough to want to defend them from the dangers of the wasteland, and that he's good at his job because he got to ranger. He's not just part of the NCR military.
True.
So he seems definitely very confident in that he knows what he's doing, and almost like that he's dealt with the ghouls in this sort of nature before.
Right. But still, we don't know who he is.
No. He seems very... He seems like he's trying to seem very bland and boring. Like he's hiding behind the anonymity of his mask.
Right. Presumably for the sake of not having to get in people's way with his own self.
Right.
Like his own backstory and whatnot.
I think the way he might convince Ben to open up is by opening up a little bit himself.
Right.
Like he's addressing Ben as this very specific individual person, yet he refuses to take off his mask or give his name.
Right.
And so he's not a person, essentially.
And I think hopefully we'll get a scene where he does take off his mask and open up, and that will force Ben to... That might be the point where the Ranger's like, okay, the only way I'm going to get Ben to not give in is if I myself open up.
Yeah.
And we have this like mutual like, oh, yay, hugs and kittens for everybody.
Neither of those characters are the hugging type.
No.
So.
No, and that'd be awkward.
Yeah.
And then speaking of characters opening up a bit more, we have the scene where Scarlet wakes up in the cage.
Yes.
And sees Larry, and they have their little verbal scuffle, if you will.
Right.
And Larry the whole time's like, oh, yeah, well, I'm in the same boat as you, so don't think I care, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then at the end, he's like, yeah, but Scarlet says, but Ben let you go. And then Larry kind of like gets a little contemplative for a moment, and then says, in a very like downtrodden tone, it's just business. It's just business.
Yeah.
And like you get the sense of regret coming from Larry. It's like, oh, cool.
He might be a person with regrets and feelings. And
exactly.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah, I would like to see a little bit more in his character, but
he's still a scumbag.
Yeah, he's still a scumbag, absolutely.
But I want to know he's a human scumbag with regrets.
Okay. All right. I want my scumbags to have a little bit of good in them.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Because, you know.
Otherwise,
realism.
what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, then of course we have the new friendlies.
Yes, who we don't really know anything about except one has a really cool mustache.
Yeah.
And one has 6 eyes.
True. He had the glasses and the goggles and
the regular eyeballs.
That's true. Yeah. So that was impressive. I like what looks like the leader.
Mm-hmm.
The guy with the cool mustache, because he looks like a Fallout NPC. Like he looks like somebody you would expect to see in the Fallout games.
Absolutely. And he has this sort of fatherly feel that you want to put trust in.
Yeah. And he has like the kind of comb back 50s 60s style hairdo, and like you said, he has the fatherly feel to him, but also like the I get stuff done.
Yeah, like
I'm a man on a mission.
Exactly, like a harsh reality type guy as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm definitely excited to learn first his name and then more about him.
Well, we heard his name said a few times in the dialogue, but it was said pretty fast to the point where like I couldn't quite hear. I think his name was Ron.
Maybe.
If I remember correctly. Something like that. Began with an R, sound like Ron.
Okay. Maybe you're right, and
I'm looking at the credits right now. There's a character called Ron and a character called Raz.
Okay.
So it's one of those two.
So I might have missed it taking notes, but I still want to learn more about him.
Yes.
So
and his organization as a whole.
Absolutely. And what the locker is.
Yes.
So again with the questions and no answers.
Exactly. Which is what a good series should do.
Especially in the first episode.
Yes. Although the final episode, no. Like Lost did that, the final episode.
Yeah.
It was
you need resolution too.
Yeah, you need to answer the questions at some
Eventually,
point.
Yeah.
So I do like how each episode has just left us with more and more questions.
Yes, but we're still getting answers as well.
Exactly. So it's the perfect formula for a series.
Compelling. Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting questions and answers at a regular rate to keep you interested.
Absolutely.
And they do it well. Yeah. Then we get the confrontation with Leon and Scarlet, and that whole dynamic is set up. All we get is my Scarlet, and then it cuts the end of the episode. But that says so much, and especially how they looked at each other. It's like, ooh, this will be intriguing.
Yes, I can't wait to find out just how much she hates him.
Yes,
and how much he will do to try to win her affection.
Yes. So
and
we'll find out.
I'm also thinking it would be interesting if she pretended, like feigned the affection back.
Yeah.
At some point to earn a little bit of trust and slack.
Yeah, and then get out of it.
Right.
That'd be interesting. And then with the whole Leon being reintroduced, I guess. It reminded me of season 1. He said something about his brother, and like his brother was in charge of a certain group of men over in this direction and whatnot. I'm wondering if we'll ever see his brother.
I feel like we probably will.
Do you think we'll see him this season?
That's a good question that I'm not sure.
I think we talked about this last season, and we said we both thought we'd be introduced to him as the next baddie in the season 2 finale.
That sounds like something I would say, yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Again,
Yes.
we haven't watched the episodes in advance. We don't know.
Right.
So
Although I feel like we should rewatch season 1.
yes,
I think I'm going to.
yes, and it's one of those things too where for our audience who has watched all the episodes, primarily Jan Schneider,
Yeah.
you're probably yelling at your computer right now. No, you guys are idiots. That's not what happens at all. It's so obvious. Can't you see?
But no, we are blind.
We are. But that being said, we're not blind to the creative elements.
Clever segue.
This is the best segue
Right.
in the history of all podcasts.
Oh, wow.
And that being said, Nick, that means it's time to talk about our thoughts on the creative elements.
Yeah.
Yep. My first thought, we have that establishing shot with the Nuka Cola, which is
Yes.
great for a few reasons. One, it reminds us, Nuka break
Yes.
with a Nuka Cola. Pretty obvious.
Mhm.
And it's like cool, close up, and then the wind starts blowing to, reintroduce us to the nuclear explosion. So it's really cool, just artistic choice. But the whole time I'm watching this close up on this Nuka Cola bottle sink into the sand and get covered by the blowing sand, all I can think of is, well, Nuka Cola, that's 200 years old.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they stopped manufacturing Nuka Cola after the war. Right?
I
Safe
would-
assumption.
Yeah.
There's probably some guy out there who's like found a way to turn on the factory and he's like trying to pump out his own somewhere in the world. But for the most part, Nuka Cola not in production anymore, meaning all Nuka Cola is around 200 years old.
Presumably.
To which I have to wonder, what would a 200-year-old cola taste like?
A flat.
Flat. Well, presumably. But also, do you think like it would still be good?
I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of sugar in there.
It's true, but there's also probably a lot of preservatives, and if the bottle is sealed,
That's true.
especially because they're glass bottles with bottle caps that you would have to pry off, so the seal is pretty good.
So in your scientific expertise, would you say that 200-year-old soda safe to drink?
I mean, as safe as 1-year-old soda.
Okay. There we go.
I would assume.
You've heard
I
it
don't
here,
know.
everybody.
It's also nuclear powered, clearly. So
This is true. 'Cause I have drinking really old soda before.
yes.
It was granted it was in a can.
So sealing not as good.
It's not as sealed, and even though it's sealed in a tin can, you still get air passing
Yeah.
through because it's still a somewhat porous metal.
Yes, it's
Right.
very thin. The
Right.
Nuka Cola bottles are thick glass. So.
Right. But it's doing some like game night at some guy's house, and he had Mountain Dews that he had in his basement for 10 years.
Wow.
It was 10-year-old Mountain Dew, and we drank it, but it had like gone all syrupy, like
Ew.
it separated. Like the syrup and the water had like separated.
That's gross.
It was nasty. It was
Do
disgusting.
you shake it up?
Well, we didn't know to at first,
Right.
but also
Did you like pour it in a glass and stir it up?
yeah, we just opened it, and then I didn't drink it first. Some guy opened his Mountain Dew and went to drink. He's like, oh, that's disgusting. And so then we poured it out into glasses.
Okay.
But we just drained out the water and tried to drink the syrup. It was
Ew.
we were like, this is back when I was like 14.
Okay.
We were idiots. It was
Well-
so that's what made me think of like 200 years. What would that do if that happens in
Mhm.
10? But the whole glass bottle sealed thing. Regardless, it's kind of a pointless point,
Yeah, Nuka Cola is delicious and it's a goal.
and it's in
clearly.
a fictional universe.
Yes.
So that being said, let's move on to the important stuff.
Okay.
Ben, Larry, and Scarlet look a bit different than I remember them looking in season 1.
I would say somewhat, yeah, but not to the point where it's unbelievable that they didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And granted, I haven't watched season 1 since we reviewed it, so my memory's a bit hazy.
Okay.
But Scarlet, I think the reason she looks different is her hair. Something's different about her hair. I think in season 1 she primarily had it pulled up.
Yeah, I think you're
I
right.
think that's what it is. But she looks different, and I think it's something to do with her hair. Ben and Larry look different. I think just because they redid the makeup.
Right, and since it had been a while since they had done the makeup previously, that might have been done slightly differently.
Right. And at first, like, Ben looks different. Why? I don't understand. Why? And then we learned he was going feral. I'm like, oh, that might explain it.
Mhm.
Like just the physical characteristics of his face are changing because he's going
like
feral.
Like he might be getting more gaunt and.
Yeah, like I noticed at his at the top of his forehead, there's like a little split mark that I don't think was there before. So just stuff like that. The makeup was slightly different. And so I thought, oh, maybe it's just because he's going feral. And then I saw Larry, and Larry's makeup was different. I'm like, well, 2 ghouls wouldn't be going feral. That's a little much to throw at an audience.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just they had to redo the makeup, and it's been a while, and they don't have the same makeup lying around, which I think is much more plausible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also feel like with the amount of deformity on their faces that it's not terribly noticeable. Like, I was not bothered by it at all.
No. So. And again, I don't... This is not me saying, oh, the makeup was bad. It was worse than it was in Season 1.
Right.
No, it's just as good as it was in Season 1, just different.
Right.
So, and it honestly didn't really bother me that much. I just noticed it.
Yes.
So, thought I'd point that out. Also, you remember the Season 1 intro sequence?
Yes, I remember liking it a lot.
Yes, with the epic narration and whatnot. They changed up the intro sequence for Season 2.
Yes.
And I like it more.
I do as well. The thing about the same narration on every one is that it gets old.
Yeah.
And if you can repeat with it, then it's like, oh, I've heard this before. Just skip to the content.
Like, if we had another season of listening to In His Search for the Perfect Nuka Break.
Yeah.
If we had to listen to that for all of Season 2, it would start to get old.
Yes.
And so we have a new intro sequence.
I feel like they cut it down a little bit.
Yes.
It's shorter, and it's more of character exposés.
Yes.
Which I love. So
yes, with the kind of epic close-up shots of them, particularly the Rangers.
His shot was so cool.
Where he like turns and looks at the camera, and like the eye pieces are glowing red.
Yeah, and the right eye consolidates into like the shape, and then it looks very menacing and just epic.
The whole new intro sequence is way more epic because you do have like the credits, which feels more official and cinematic.
Yep. And
they're just super close-up shots at sunset, and it looks amazing.
Yeah.
And the music.
Yeah.
Like, it's all just like, this is the perfect... And it also sets a different tone. Because the whole Season 1 intro sequence was more, lighthearted and comical. And this new intro sequence sets a new tone of being slightly more serious. And I think, overall, so far, it's only been the pilot episode.
True.
It's more serious.
Yes. I feel like the humor will still be there.
Yes.
But there'll be more serious stuff happening around it.
Yes. Because, obviously, there's still the humor of Twig getting shot right after, everything's going well. And
or drinking a can of popcorn or whatever that was.
Gravel or something.
Yeah. Not Nuka Cola.
Exactly. That's the main point. So the comedy's still there, but I think they're starting to, because they can with their production budget and their production value, starting to gear it more to a dramatic direction, which I like.
Yes, I'm excited as well because I love me some drama.
Yes.
I love the CG Nuka Cola machine.
Yes.
It did look a little bit out of place because it was so obviously CG, but it felt a lot like the video game.
Yes, and also I do want to remark that I believe, in my opinion, the CG is getting a lot better than Season 1.
Absolutely.
Like the Rad Roach
was
CG.
It was.
This was like, oh, yeah, that looks like it could be there. Like, I know it's CG, but it's way more believable.
Yes.
And the fact that it was him just hallucinating kind of made it not matter as much.
Exactly.
Also.
Yeah, exactly. And just I love the fact that it's reminding you, hey, this is a game, remember? It's a fun game.
Yeah.
And I want to go back and play it again now.
Yes.
So.
Or you could just wait till Fallout 4, which is presumably coming out soon.
Well, that's still too long to wait because it's not. They're not ready to release any dates on it.
That's true. Also, I just want to remark, Season 2 as a whole, way, way, way more cinematic.
Yes, I
love it. And the shot that made me think this was the coverage shot of the locker, when the camera's like panning out from behind the hills and then goes over to the building and whatnot. But just as a whole, the whole series, they pull off grander shots and more epic shots.
Yes, and I feel like the sequence of shots as well feels more polished.
Yes, the editing feels more polished. I feel like they thought through their shot list a lot more. Not to say they didn't in Season 1, but they have more time and money to do more epic things.
Yes, and do it better than they have previously.
Yes, for me, what I've noticed being a major increase as Season 1 is the coverage shots, establishing shots of locations and environments. with big sweeping camera movements.
Yeah.
Looks amazing.
It really does. The introduction to the locker area, I loved it. It was a great sequence of shots.
Which also just tells us, because they introduce it in such a grand, sweeping way through cinematography, tells us this is important. This place is important. These people here are important.
Yes, but you don't know why yet.
Make note of it, which is quite good. I like it. Good camera work.
Absolutely. Oh,
Thumbs up.
I'm excited to see more.
Yes. But we'll have to wait until our next review to see
yes.
more.
Exactly. I feel like there was a lot of content this episode and a lot of questions asked, but there wasn't a ton of special effects going on.
Right, which didn't bother me. Because if I had the choice between the two, I would pick plot development and character development anytime. Like if it came down to a decision between special effects and action sequences versus character and plot development, I would always choose character and plot development if I had to.
Yes,
if I could get both put together, awesome.
Absolutely. I feel like sometimes it depends on the mood. Sometimes you don't want to think about the plot of a movie and just watch people be awesome.
Transformers.
Yeah. Or I saw 300 Rise of the Vampire.
Was it good?
It's just awesome action sequences is the only reason to watch it.
I did. Well, that's the only reason to watch the first one.
The first one, though, the plot was a lot better and definitely more historically accurate.
Yeah, with the mutant sword hand man.
Despite the Zack Snyder nonsense, it was historically accurate.
And the mutant goat man.
Yeah, that was weird.
Anyways, this is not 300.
No.
This is Fallout Nuka Break.
Right. But essentially what I'm saying is that there's not a ton of CG to talk about because none of it happened in this episode.
Right. And I do think the first episode of Season 2 had to set up the characters and the plot points of Season 2.
Yeah.
You know, Ben going feral, these new people, Scarlet getting captured, Leon, all that had to be introduced and plot. That way, in the following episodes, we could then get the conflict between all of that. So I think...
Exactly. I'm not complaining.
Right.
At all.
If I had to guess, I would say episode 2, probably even more so in episode 3, we're going to see a lot of action and conflict.
Probably.
So maybe even some more shish kebab action.
Maybe, but he did steal that.
He did.
So they might confiscate it back.
Maybe.
Well, I don't know. I'm excited, though.
I'm looking forward to it. And that means it's time for how this holds up against big time media.
All right.
Now, normally we do the IMDb ratings and the YouTube ratings. YouTube ratings are hard to do when you have multiple videos.
Yeah.
So I didn't do the YouTube rating.
All right.
I just did the IMDb rating. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But on IMDb, this might be the highest IMDb rating I have yet read. It's an 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb, which for IMDb is like a 12 out of 10.
Yeah.
So very well done for IMDb standards.
Yes. I feel like that's definitely more accurate to what it deserves, but I feel like it deserves more.
Right.
Out of 10.
And for the most part, when we do the YouTube ratings, it's always somewhere between 9.2 and 9.8.
That's true.
So I think it's safe to assume that it would fall between there anyways.
Closer to the 9.8, I'm guessing.
Yes. Especially since it's such a niche series
right.
for Fallout fans.
People who like Fallout will absolutely click on this video, will watch it, and will like it because of the Fallout references exclusively.
And the fact that it's a well-done, extremely well-done Fallout
absolutely
fan web series.
Yes.
And I like how on the IMDb page it's listed as a mini TV series or a TV miniseries because it has the production value of that. Like this has the production value of TV shows.
This is way better than a lot of stuff on Sci-Fi. So,
and it has better effects than a lot of stuff on a lot of networks on TV. So well done.
Absolutely.
I approve. I approve greatly.
Okay.
So do we want to do our own ratings or do we want to wait until the whole series is over?
Wait till at least the season.
Season?
Yeah.
You got it.
I feel like that's what we did last time, didn't we?
I think so.
Yeah.
I always forget when we do ratings on series.
Yeah, because we're bad about consistency.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
So at the end of the series, at the end of the season of this series, we'll
at the end of both. We'll do a seasonal ratings. Each season we'll give it a rating, and then we'll do a series overall rating.
Yes.
I like this.
Sounds
idea.
good.
But that being said, that's going to wrap up our podcast.
I think so.
So, for all of you watching at home or listening, then you should let us know what you think of Season 2, of Season 1, of Fallout as a whole, the games even. You could be part of the conversation.
Absolutely.
Give us some feedback.
Our email is feedback@proactivesoccermedia.com, or you can leave a Google voice message at 720-295-0885.
Yes, there's also our YouTube page, and you could leave your feedback in the comments of this YouTube video.
Absolutely.
And that's youtube.com/
Proactive Slackers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And while you're on YouTube, go watch some Fallout stuff. I mean,
Absolutely.
Geez, there's a bunch of great stuff on YouTube, Fallout related.
It's true. Like this.
Yes. This is probably the best of all of it, though. So
Probably.
now that you've had your appetite tempered by Fallout Nuka Break, you'll probably be disappointed by all the other stuff you watch.
Okay.
Because this is the best of the best. So, just a warning.
All right. Strong recommendation from Devin.
Yes. Only watch Fallout Nuka Break and watch it every day, all day.
Okay.
It helped them out a lot.
Wow. I feel like you'd have to start repeating pretty fast.
Yes. Also, we have other social networking links.
We do.
Those being our Facebook.
Facebook.com/Proactive Slacker Media.
And Twitter.
Twitter.com/PSM_company.
And we'll be using those for the next, let's see, 60-ish years until the Great War happens and we're plunged into a nuclear apocalypse. But until then, we will always keep you up to date on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay.
We also have our own personal Twitters.
Yes, I'm at ProSlackerNick.
And I'm at Devin_H. That's DEVYNN_H. We also have a website.
ProactiveSlackerMedia.squarespace.com.
Yep. And if you want to help support us, you can definitely do so. Again, Audible is sponsoring this podcast.
Thank you, Audible.
Yes, enjoy books before they all burn up in the nuclear apocalypse.
Or save these books as MP3 piles.
Piles?
Yeah.
Piles of MP3s.
Exactly. Get as many piles of MP3 book files as you can and put them onto your Pip-Boy.
Yes, because...
And then listen to books in the post-apocalypse.
Yeah, because that's where I was going with that. Because you could savor all your books for now.
Yeah.
But they're going to burn up in the nuclear apocalypse. But you know what still exists in the Fallout video games? Computers.
It's true.
And audio messages. So you could save those. And again, like Nick said,
holotapes.
You'll be set. So if you love reading of any kind, if you love literature, and you want to savor them for generations to come.
And you don't have time to read a book because you're too busy surviving.
Yes.
Listen to one.
And if you don't have enough money, because again, all that has burned up in the apocalypse and all you have left is bottle caps, Audible has you covered for the oncoming apocalypse.
Absolutely.
Go to audibletrial.com/short series. You can get yourself a free trial and free audiobook download and start hoarding, because you know what? Knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
And a lot of knowledge is in books. So get your audiobooks, build up your knowledge. You'll have the power in the post-apocalypse, and you will come out on top.
Absolutely.
Boom.
Become the leader of New Vegas.
Yes. Or wherever you live.
Sovereign state of you.
Yes. And there you go.
Brought to you by Audible.com.
Oh.
I love it.
That was fun.
Yep.
Also, you could visit our Cafe Press store.
cafepress.com/Proactive Slacker Media.
Or patreon.com/PSM.
Okay.
And you could help support us via money.
Yep. That's
because
very
all
supportive.
this takes money to make.
He's gesturing to the studio lighting that we have.
Yes. And everything else.
And the computer.
The computer, the
The
tripod, the webcam, the laptop, the editing software, the microphone.
Yeah. Stuff.
All of it.
Stuff.
It's stuff. Equipment. It takes money, and you could help us pay for it. That way we could get better equipment for you.
Exactly.
But that being said, I think that's going to wrap up the podcast.
What are we watching next week?
Next week, we are watching something.
Okay.
I actually didn't look up a short film to review next week. That's a fault on mine.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
Oh, there was one.
Tell you what. Here's what we'll do.
Go to our Facebook page.
Facebook.com/Proactive Slacker Media. There will be a link there shortly to the film that we're going to be reviewing next week. Also, we'll tweet it out and send us some feedback for short films you want us to review.
Yes, absolutely. That would help us not have to find every single one.
Yes,
It's a lot of work.
We both work full-time jobs and then do this, so we don't always have time to go looking for short films. But we will have one for you next week.
I try to watch as many as I can. Unfortunately, some of them aren't very good.
No, there's a lot of not great short films on YouTube.
And I don't want to force you guys to watch that to keep up with us.
Yes.
So
stay tuned. We will have it for you shortly. And that being said, goodbye.
Goodbye. I was trying to think of a Fallout reference to end it on, but
Instead, you just ended up babbling like an idiot right at the end of the podcast.
Exactly. You're welcome.
You're welcome, YouTube.